Well, people, if you saw a notification on your YouTube and we came out with another video, if you saw a notification on your podcast, we came out with a third episode this week, you're not crazy. We did. This has been such an insane week that I've got my buddy Reagan and we've got to do a third episode for this week. Reagan, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me, man. I had to make up for not being here Sunday for Reaction Sunday, Had a long trip back from Auburn and couldn't make it Sunday, so had to make it up.
Hey, we don't blame you one bit. We're glad you're out there having fun. It's been really fun, man. Johnny, Howie, you, myself, all of us making appearances at different colleges, at different game days this year. What a blessing. We love it anytime we get a chance. And speaking of one of our LCFP contributors, Howie's got to be fired up about the long term extension that the Indiana Hoosiers locked up with Kurt Signetti. Come on.
It's just crazy, honestly. He went from like a leading, front page contender for this Penn State job. And all the big donors at Indiana sitting there, just a little worried, and they just had to lock their guy down. And good for him, good for the program. That's going to keep Indiana relevant for a very long time.
Absolutely. Just the human side of me loves it, Reagan. Like if he jumps ship from Indiana and goes to Penn State, I can't blame him one bit. But I wouldn't have as much affection for the guy. Like I'm rooting for the guy at IU. He just
Oh
fits
yeah.
there. He's turned him into a powerhouse in a year and a half and I love that he's staying there long term.
He just fits the underdog culture of Indiana, going out there and smack talking with the big dogs. I love it.
Oh yeah. And I don't always agree with his smack talk, but I love it.
Oh,
That's who he is, man. He's not shying away from it.
man, as long as you're authentic, it doesn't matter. Like as long as you're within the realm of respectability, which anything that he said that we disagree with, it's fine. But man, it's awesome. I love it. Good for Indiana.
It really
Good for
is.
Kurt, man. Finally getting his shot all these years into his career, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey, just a few years ago, he was making 130 grand, which is still an insane amount of money that a lot of people listening would like to make, and we're happy for the guy. But now he's making north of 11 million a year. Whew, what a jump! We're happy for the
Yeah.
guy. And speaking of Penn State, he's now off the list there. But Penn State, man, where do they go? One of the things we didn't get to dive into is the Matt Rhule connection. And Penn State is not a job that comes open very often. This is a job that people keep for decades at a time. And they've only had a few coaches there in the last 50 years. And you think of a guy like Matt Rhule that has the personal connections there, that played there. Is he high up on their list? What do you think, Reagan?
Man, he's got to be number one. You got to make him say no. And speaking of the personal connection side, I kind of hope he stays at Nebraska. I'm not gonna lie. I like what he's doing there, but again, that's the kind of job. Whenever a Penn State or a Georgia or a UF, one of those kind of jobs comes along, you've got to at least consider it. And you can't give anybody grief if that's the leap that they want to make, man.
Absolutely. He's done such a great job at Nebraska. They're a team that might find themselves in the playoff. Spoiler alert, we're going to be giving you our mid-season playoff predictions at the end of this episode, so stick around. Yeah, I
Very
wouldn't I wouldn't blame
scientific.
him. I wouldn't blame him at all. I mean, but I do think he loves the Rayola brothers. He's got another one coming along, and he's done a great thing there at Nebraska. He said all the right things at least. But I also wouldn't blame him because he probably knows this job's not opening up for another decade if things go well for the next coach. One person I'm looking at is Dan Mullen, Reagan. I think he's a guy that really actually did a pretty good job at Florida. He's from the Northeast. He's got roots up there. UNLV is undefeated. Maybe they're pushing for a
You th-
G5 playoff spot.
you think he's gonna jump that quickly back to the P4?
I mean, I'm just looking at it as a name.
Yeah,
Penn State has to make a splash. And
they do.
if you don't have Signetti, if you don't have Rhule, who else is on that list? I'm just throwing Dan Mullen in the ring. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm putting that name in there for sure. Any other names that you're looking at?
Honestly, I something tells me Rhule is probably the guy that ends up there. I don't think it's overly complicated. I think that, like you said, this is one of those top 10 jobs, and when one of those jobs comes available, you make the jump. It's kind of like Alabama's job a couple of years ago. I never really bought into the all these different guys that got called and said no. I don't buy into that. I think that Dan Mullen or Dan Lanning probably was the one that actually turned that job down. But again,
Yeah,
Oregon, top 10 job itself, unlimited bankroll. So outside of him, something tells me you get that kind of job offer, you're gonna take it for pretty seriously, man. Um,
absolutely.
Something else is that's really interesting, and I want to hear what your thoughts are, is the UF job. It seems like all the reporting this week is that this Sunday it's coming, win, lose, draw, whatever. Seems like it's going that way. What are your thoughts? I have a pretty strong inclination on who I think they're going to strongly go after, but I want to, hear what you think, man.
Well, I think this is, part two of a series that doesn't have much creativity to it in a sense. Let's run it back for season two. All the talk last year was Napier's gone and Lane Kiffin's the guy. And it seems like they're just running back that same script right now, Reagan.
Yeah, that's
But
exactly what I was thinking.
Lane Kiffin is so interesting to me. So I'm gonna not go directly on the Florida situation here. So
Hmm.
let's just lump these two openings together, right? Penn State and Florida, both I would say at least top 15, probably both top 10 job opportunities in the country. And Lane Kiffin, kind of like Matt Rhule in a sense too, Reagan, a guy that's not stayed very long in a lot of places, jumped around a lot. Lane Kiffin even more so than Matt Rhule, some very negative experiences and a lot of drama and a lot of flair. I actually, part of me thinks, Reagan, and this might be crazy, I think he's really happy at Ole Miss. The question is, does he think he can win a national championship there? And is that something he wants to pursue? Because I think everybody knows Ole Miss is not a tier one program. You don't have the same resources as these top 10 jobs, as these perennial powerhouses. But part of me thinks Lane Kiffin's matured a little bit and he might just be content being an Ole Miss team that has a little bit of that underdog feel to him. He's got him in a great spot and he might just be happy to stay there. That's a little bit how I'm leaning here, which I think I'm in the minority there.
I really, really, really think that the end and the outcome of this season will dictate a lot for him. He has a great team. They've got a huge matchup coming up this weekend. If they were to pop Georgia, and if they were to go on a real serious run, if they get to Atlanta for the first time in that team's history, if they make some noise, that would be the indicator for him. I can win here. I can keep doing my thing. And I really think that he's the kind of guy, I do think he wants to compete for a championship. I think he's a sarcastic know it all. I think he's a Twitter troll, but he's excellent at what he does. And when you're an alpha, when you're that level of A tier, excellent at what you do, you want to be the best. I do deep down think he wants to chase a ring, or at least chase a ring to the best of his ability. We'll see. We're going to get into some playoff predictions here at the end, but I don't know if Ole Miss again. It's kind of like Kirby in that 2024 Georgia team. He wrung every drop out of that sponge, like you said before the show, man. And I think Lane has made this job a lot more attractive at Ole Miss than it actually is because of how good he's been there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also just think like Lane Kiffin in my mind for a while was best in the world, world class offensive mind, offensive coordinator, but can he be a head coach? Can he stick somewhere long enough? Can he mature a little? And I just want to give him props and credit. I think he has. And I
Oh
think
yeah,
he's shown even with all the history. Like think about like Bobby Petrino, crazy the fact that he's back at Arkansas. Just as crazy is the fact that Lane Kiffin is having success, having an undefeated season right now, a top 10 team in the country, in the playoff hunt, an SEC championship
top
contender.
five,
Like
man,
the fact that like Lane Kiffin, the guy that did all this crazy stuff at Tennessee and USC and all these places and
and the
Alabama even,
Raiders.
like yes, like the fact that he's still in the sport and he's in demand where
Yeah.
Penn State and or Florida both might be interested in the guy is just mind-blowing, but I give him all the credit in the world for reinventing himself and maturing. It's really remarkable.
Well, look, I have a bunch of UF friends. I have some connections to that university. Obviously, we both live in the deep, dirty South. I'll tell you, Florida fans want him bad, and he would come in with a big check mark. Tennessee fans can't stand the guy, so he would come in with a huge check from the Gator fans, man. And
That's right.
as a Georgia and as a Bama fan, the idea of Florida finally really getting their guy, it's a scary thought. That
Oh
is
yeah.
a that is a program that is ripe to explode. Saban always said if the right guy got to Athens, things would happen. They got their guy.
Yeah.
I don't know that Florida's that same tier, but man, they're close. And you get the right guy. Look at the success Urban Meyer had there.
100%. I was just going to say, look at that 2008 type stretch, man, with
Yeah.
Florida. My goodness, dude. Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer, phenomenal stuff. And all the talent that Florida has, I think we're seeing a little bit of what Miami's been able to do, keeping in-state talent. You throw a guy like that in the mix. I mean, Florida's got huge potential. Hey, I want to throw one other name your way, and we're going to talk about his team later on in this episode because Notre Dame USC is a huge matchup that we didn't get to do a deep dive on that I think is worthy of it. Marcus Freeman. I mean, is there any chance Penn State tries to go after him or any of these schools that have an opening? I mean, and by the way, I should clarify this, Reagan. We're really talking a lot about Penn State and Florida, but this carousel, we both believe, is going to be massive. The Florida job isn't even officially open yet. It
Yeah.
seems like it's going to happen. Auburn seems like it's going to happen. Arkansas and Virginia Tech have already happened, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of, we know that there's these big names, but there's also a lot of coordinators out there, like a Will Stein at Oregon, and a lot of G5 head coaches, like a John Sumrall, like an Alex Golish, that I think are ripe for big time coaching opportunities. But all that to be said, I know I just went a million ways. Marcus Freeman, anything there?
I think Marcus Freeman is I think that might be their first call because I'll be honest, Marcus Freeman has done things at Notre Dame that I thought that the sport had more than passed Notre Dame by to be truly in that elite. I'll be the first to admit I was wrong, dead wrong. I thought Brian Kelly had sort of maxed out that program for as long as he was there. And what Marcus Freeman has done in his tenure is genuinely impressive.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think that he knows he has a program that can win a championship. They've gotten better every single year under his tenure. We'll see what happens this year. They have 2 losses by 4 points this year so far, but I don't think he's going anywhere. I kind of like where he's at Notre Dame. You know what's so funny about Marcus Freeman is Notre Dame is one of the most hated teams in all of college football. But man, and I grew up a Miami fan. I can't stand Notre Dame, but man, I just love Marcus Freeman.
So
I,
likable.
he's one of the most likable guys out there. So, I'd love him at a more favorable place where I could then go back to just purely hating Notre Dame. I'm just kidding, but I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't buy it. Could be dead wrong, obviously, but there's some other impressive coaches out there, man, that just got huge extensions that I would love to see get a bigger opportunity. I'll throw a name out there, Lance Leopold at Kansas. I know he just got a big extension a year or two ago, but man, Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, what he's been doing, couple of names. I'd almost love to see what they could do at a real championship contending program, but I know they're locked up.
Yeah. Dude, that's a really good call. And Lance Leopold is obviously at a place that has a lid. So I would love, like you said, for him to get a chance at a next tier team. We didn't even mention UCLA. The interesting thing about UCLA, man, is who's going to want that job? Like
Yeah.
you're a bottom of the basement Big Ten team, but I want to give UCLA all the credit in the world, Reagan. We a few weeks back we talked about, man, UCLA fired their coach. What's going to happen? They haven't played a fifth game yet. Are we going to see a mass exodus of players? Zero guys hit the portal, Reagan. Zero. I'm mind
Yeah.
blown by that. In the modern era of college football, when they had 30 days to hit the portal, nobody left. They've won 2 games now. I mean, is there any chance you're in LA, you play your home games at the Rose Bowl, but let's be honest, there's not much of an environment. You're in the Big Ten now. You're severely disadvantaged being on the West Coast. Is there any chance that's even an attractive job anymore?
No. No, I think it's a stepping stone program at this point. They're the second most popular team by a wide margin in their own city. I don't think that they're going to get out of the basement anytime soon in the Big Ten. All their boosters, all their money goes to their basketball program, which is legit. I think that UCLA and USC have kind of found their niches in that city. One is a basketball school, one's a football school. I don't believe it, but you never know if they get the right alumni in there, if they get somebody that it's their passion project, you never know if the right guy gets there and can slowly help them climb out of the basement. I don't see it happening, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
I think when Chip Kelly left, it was like, all right, that's it. That's kind of the last straw, this new era. I think you're exactly right. It is a stepping stone program. And if you're UCLA, you're going to try to find a window of success with a coach who's only going to be there for a little bit, but you're taking a chance on. So it could go terribly wrong, or they could be the next massive coach that takes on this huge top 10 job. But hey, you got 3 years out of them.
Yeah, I mean, look, they beat Penn State and they couldn't even do a field rush.
Yeah.
You know, like I,
Yes.
what else do you say to that other than you couldn't do a field rush when you pulled off a top five upset and
Yeah.
they had led for 0 seconds all year up until that game? Like, I really don't know how they climb out of that mess. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
hey,
let's get,
look, Indiana has proven genuinely. Howie's
yes.
not here, but Indiana, Kansas, and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, they found an alumni. They found somebody that truly just loved that program. And Clark Lee, as successful as he is, I don't imagine he's going to go anywhere with how much he loves that program. Sig is kind of a one of one, but that's
Yeah.
genuinely what it would take is you got to find the right guy and then you got to invest like crazy. But I don't know
Yeah.
that they're willing to do that even if they found the right guy.
And Reagan, you know what I think gives hope is yes, Indiana is a bizarre story. Just Sig, his age, his path. But
Kansas.
I think that there's other Kenny Dillinghams out there. Young guys who love the sport, who maybe even didn't get a chance to play the sport, but they've just been all about football from a very young age. And Dillingham's back with his alma mater. You know, like you said, you mentioned alumni at UCLA and other schools too, where you could have a few year stretch. And Indiana is turning a few year stretch into hopefully a decade where they're in the picture every year. So it is possible in this day and age. Do you
Oh, for
have
sure.
any other thoughts coaching carousel wise?
Um, I think that obviously there's a lot of smoke around Hugh Freeze right now, and we're going to talk about, some upsets in the future. He's not done yet. Let's just be very clear. They have a game at the end of the year that they haven't won in a couple of years. And I'm not making that prediction, but I will tell you, beating Alabama goes a long way. And they have some winnable games coming up here. Nothing easy, nothing given. It's the SEC this year, but he's not done yet. I root for the guy. I love a
Yeah.
good redemption arc, and I know Auburn's not your favorite team or mine either, but I totally drink the Kool-Aid on Hugh Freeze being the right guy for that program. So,
Me too.
we'll see.
And people will probably be surprised to hear this, but I got a lot of family that are Auburn people, and I actually am a big fan of Hugh Freeze as well. My brother's freshman year at Liberty, Hugh Freeze was the head coach, and I got to be there for one of, if not Liberty's biggest win in school history, where they beat BYU and field rushed, and that was really
Hmm.
special. And just hearing, like you said, you mentioned his personal life and the redemption arc. I love that kind of stuff, but I'm also a realist, and I go, dude, the SEC has like 10 really good coaches with a lot of pressure on them. They all can't succeed. Like, and
Yeah.
at some point, somebody's going to be the guy that, man, and that's why I hated it for them that the officiating has been that the way that it has been. Um, but I also think at the end of the day, he's the head coach and he's the one that's put Peyton Thorne and Jackson Arnold out there on the field as a starting quarterback the last 3 years. And
Yeah.
that's the part that I just think, how do you get behind that if you're the AD and if you're the boosters at Auburn? So I hope he makes it as well. And I think people will be
Especially that
surprised to
second
hear
year of
that.
Peyton Thorne. That second year was rough. First
It was a
year, look,
throwaway.
yeah, first year, I get it. Everyone gets it. You're rebuilding. It's going to take some time. But when you throw that guy back out a second year in a
Oh,
row, you're all but waving the white flag on the year, man.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's fun stuff. Kind of as a tease, heading into our midseason playoff predictions, which is going to be so fun. Part of me, Reagan, just I hate it because I'm like I'm going to look like an idiot after this Saturday because somebody's going to lose that I
yeah.
think I got in here. But part of it's just really fun, and this is the beauty of the sport. I think that this Saturday is almost an elimination game, and it's a rivalry game in week 8 going down in South Bend. USC at Notre Dame. A lot of people wrote USC off before the season started. They looked at their schedule. They've looked at the Lincoln Riley era hasn't gone well out there. And then after the Illinois game, and USC to me was a team that I took the over on their win loss this year, and
Was
it
it eight
didn't
and a
make
half?
sense.
8.5, 9.5, 7.5?
I'm
Do
trying
you
to
remember where
remember what
that's
it
at?
was preseason, Reagan, but it was one where I was like, logically, this doesn't make sense, but
Hmm.
I'm on them. It was just a gut feel like I'm on USC this year, second
Yeah.
year D'Anton Lynn at DC. Jaden Mayava, I think, is really good.
Yeah.
And so far, they've looked really good, but this is a huge game.
Yeah. No, it's a huge game. Not only is this a real playoff potential eliminating game for USC, I think this is obviously, I think there's already going to be debate around a two-loss Notre Dame team that doesn't play in a conference, doesn't play in a conference championship game, even if they were in a conference potentially to get there. Um, this is an elimination game for Notre Dame. This is all but an elimination game for USC. If there, I don't know the math. If there was a way they could find their way, it would take Indiana and Ohio State really imploding for them to find their way there. But this is an elimination game for Notre Dame. Big one. 9.5 point favorite at home. Big spot.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. Notre Dame, like you said, their two losses by a combined 4 points early in the year to two teams that are undefeated still at this point. Um, Part of me is just like early in the year, I think it's easy for people to get frustrated. Like you said, there is a lot of criticism towards Notre Dame. Oh, they're not in a conference. Oh, they think they're better than everybody. And to fall into that. But man, I think they look like one of the best one-loss teams in the country right now. And or two-loss teams in the country, if not the best two-loss
They're
team.
probably the best. Probably the best.
I'm looking at that team and I'm like, I don't want to face those guys late in the year. Every week CJ Carr starts, he gets more experience. They've got the best backfield in the country, I think, 1-2 punch at running back. And man, their defense has a lot of dudes who are going to be playing in the NFL for a long time. So I look at that team and I go, they're capable of winning a national championship. But if they lose this Saturday to USC, there's no way I can ration them making the playoff. There's just no way. I think that their schedule's full of a lot of teams that look really good, pass the eye test for a schedule, a lot of C plus B minus teams, but there's not a lot of A teams on there. And you can't
Yeah,
lose all your games to A and B plus teams.
you can't. You got to have at least one. Something I'm just looking as we're talking. They've not given up 14 points since their loss to, or since their Purdue game, third week of the year. So defense has definitely been coming along. What they have, and this goes to what I was talking about a few minutes ago about Marcus Freeman, what he's brought to that team. What they have travels in December, travels in January. They've got a beefy O line and they've got an amazing stud backfield. I don't want to see him. I don't think
Mm-mm.
anybody wants to see him. And look, there's definitely a lot of Notre Dame hatred out there. And so there would be a lot of people that would take joy in them not making the playoff. But they're definitely the kind of team nobody wants to see. That's for
Absolutely.
sure.
And based on the current playoff format, I've said this before on the podcast and talking about Marcus Freeman. If I'm Marcus Freeman, I think I've got it made at Notre Dame in this era. To me, Notre Dame has, and I don't mean this as a knock. I really don't. It's going to sound like, oh, yeah, whatever. I think they have the easiest path to the playoff every single year. They have full
Oh
control over
yeah.
their schedule. They're not in a conference. They have a lot of these long-standing rivalries where they've surpassed the level of play as these old historic teams.
Yeah.
You keep getting Stanford on your schedule every year. Good for you, man. They're, a Big Ten team or an SEC team would love to have Stanford on their schedule. And I don't mean
USC's
that
been
as a
down for a
knock.
little while. USC's
Yeah,
been down. They're just starting to come back up and, they were a one-sided football team for a while, but now they're just starting to be, a complete team.
100%. And if I forecast into the future, next year, Big Ten and SEC are both going to have 9 game conference schedules. How many SEC and Big Ten teams are going to sign up and go, yeah, you know what? We'll sign up for a 10th game against Notre Dame. I don't see it happening.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, they've got Navy on their schedule every year. They've got Stanford on their schedule every year. They've got a bunch of ACC teams that they always are scheduling. I mean, it is, and again, part of that is why Notre Dame is so hated is because of that quote unquote easy schedule. And they do have to win these big games because of that. And that's why even if they were to win, there is an argument. Depends on how everything breaks down, obviously. If there's a whole bunch of two-loss teams or a one-loss team that makes it to a conference championship, I'm always going to give the advantage to the team that's playing in the conference championship. But, it is a complete advantage. I actually enjoyed how the conference or how the 12 team playoff originally did it to where they were capped at the 5 seed. I think that there should be an advantage for playing in conferences and winning and playing in conference championships. I do. I think that if everyone else is doing it, there should be an advantage.
Yeah. And I feel strongly too. I know, Pate's probably the number one guy that both of us listen to. I think that he has some pretty crazy ideas about a four-team playoff play-in for conference championship races. I feel pretty strongly about keep the traditional conference championship route, and I really like that. I'm a huge fan of it.
Yeah. He has some good ideas and some bad. Same with
Oh,
everybody. I
yeah.
like his idea in the last pod. We talked about the 4-4-2-2-1-1.
Hmm.
I love that. Anything that incentivizes the regular season. I also side with you where if you've got four teams locked up in the playoff, your one and your two, they're going to play each other. They're going to get locked in
Yes,
no matter what. Keep that the same way. Give that one seed or that two seed, or depending on the conference that you're playing in, give that respect to those teams for winning and go from there.
absolutely. Yeah, and I want to say this very firmly. Pate, I think, is the most common sense guy in the sport, and I think he has way more good ideas than bad ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I think it's time. I think it's time we give our midseason playoff predictions. You want to
Okay.
kick us off, Reagan? Give us your 12?
Oh man. So for those listening, I was talking to Laner before we started the pod and I said, man, when I was going through looking at schedules, looking at everything for the rest of the year, I got to a point where I don't know how to make a pick. So I'm going to run through these. I'm going to run through the conference championship games, run through seedings real quick. Stop me at any point, okay? So SEC, I've got a rematch.
Okay.
Cross state rivals, Bama and Georgia.
Wow.
I
SEC
do.
championship?
I do. And in that game, I think Bama takes it again.
Really?
I do. I
Wow.
think that the Kirby's Bama struggles are real. I think that what they do and what we struggle at, it's a bad matchup for us. So I've got Bama in the SEC championship game right now. Moving into the Big Ten, I think this is an easy 1-2 Ohio State, Indiana. I've got the Hoosiers.
Wow.
I do.
You've got two shockers out of me here.
I've got Indiana. I love what they do on offense. I think their defense is good. I think Ohio State's offense is the weakest unit in that game. Obviously, the strongest is that Ohio State defense. I give respect to them, but I've got Indiana pulling that upset. In the
Wow,
ACC,
Reagan.
actually, I'm
Woo.
going to save the ACC for fourth. Third, Big 12. I've got Texas Tech in a Utah rematch. Um, very big game, November 1st. Utah plays Cincinnati. Winner
Yes.
of that game really has a clear path to that second spot in that conference championship. Give me Texas Tech though. I think
I
the
love it.
ACC might be heading for a disaster. Miami, Virginia, and Georgia Tech. Nobody plays each other.
Bad.
There is a real. I was looking at Virginia's schedule. Marshmallow Fluff Soft. Georgia Tech. If they go into Duke this weekend, I think that they're going to get that win. Virginia has one out of conference loss. That would be the tiebreaker if Georgia Tech were to go unscathed.
Wow.
Georgia Tech plays Georgia to end the year. I don't know that Georgia Tech gets over Georgia. I don't know the tiebreaker scenario there. I don't know who
Wow.
goes.
Oh,
I
it's a
still I would have
mess.
Miami over either. So so I would have my four conference champions: Alabama, Indiana, Miami, Texas Tech. So the way I have this seeding breaking down: Indiana at one, Miami at two, Bama at three, Texas Tech at four.
Okay.
Then we get
Wow.
to some of these. Then we get to some of the losers of the conference championship game: Ohio State five, Georgia six, Oregon seven, Notre Dame eight. I think Notre Dame wins this weekend. I think Notre Dame continues their run, and I think that there's going to be a pretty big pileup of teams in that two-loss range. You're going to hear
Yes.
some talk about who's the hottest team. You're going to start comparing losses, things like that. We got Notre Dame at eight, Tennessee at nine. I think Tennessee loses this weekend to Alabama, and I don't think they lose again. So I think they're going to be a 10-2 team at the end of the year.
Wow.
I've got Ole Miss at 10. Little bit of a shocker here. I got Georgia Tech at 11.
Really?
I do. I think that they're going to give the nod. And again, if Virginia in the tie-breaking scenario, if that's how it goes, and they're the ones that go and lose to Miami, toss this out. I don't know how the tiebreakers would go in that scenario, but I
Sure.
think you have two 11-1 potentially teams at the end of the year. And then I'm sticking with I had preseason USF as my G5 team, sticking with USF.
Wow. Wow.
So
So,
I ran through some matchups here in the first round. Do you want me to run through these real quick?
yeah, please, please.
Okay.
And give me your conference breakdown. How many you have from each conference?
So I've got Indiana, OSU, Oregon from the Big Ten, three Big Ten teams. I've got Miami and Tech from the ACC, two ACC teams. I've got Texas Tech from the Big 12, so one, so that's six. I've got Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, so four SEC, so that's 10. USFG 5, Notre Dame Independent.
Wow. Dude, I like
That's
it.
my breakdown. So 12 versus 5, USF Ohio State. Give me Ohio State. I think that's pretty easy. The magic season for USF ends. 6 versus 11. You have a rematch. The Fighting Haynes Kings against Georgia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rivalry rematch too. Late season.
I would take Georgia. 10-7, Ole Miss, Oregon. I would take Oregon. Ever so slow. That one was hard. That's a hard game to predict,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
That's the one where I don't like being this home team wins every first round guy. That one was the one I couldn't figure out for the life of me. I just love Dan Lanning. I love what he's built there. Dante
Yep.
Moore is still that guy. And then 9 versus 8, Tennessee, Notre Dame. In Notre Dame, give me Notre Dame.
Wow.
So the run continues. So then the way the seating would break down, Laner, this is where I'm going to save the last one for last because I'd have Notre Dame, Indiana. Big rivalry
Wow.
game.
Again,
Rematch of
two
last
years
year.
in a row.
Yep.
Wow.
Give me Indiana this year.
How about that?
2 versus 7. I've got Miami, Oregon. Give me Miami. I'm going to skip that one and then go Texas Tech, Ohio State, 4-5. Ohio State.
Wow.
My 3-6 is Bama, Georgia. And that's where no, I don't believe there's ever been a team that has beaten the same team three times in one year. But how do I make that pick, man? I don't
Insane.
know. I don't know what to do there because if I pick Georgia, I'm a Georgia homer. And if I don't, I don't
I
know
don't
what to
see
do
it.
there, man. I
I
don't know
don't
what
see
to
it
do
that way. You
there.
go with your gut, man.
I don't know who to take there.
I'm a guy
So
that's like to beat a team three times in a year is really tough.
it's so hard, man. Um, I would have in the next round, I'd have Indiana, Ohio State 1-5. I would take
Wow.
Ohio State to finally get that rematch
So
against
there's a
Indiana.
rematch. Yeah.
Yep.
Different result.
And then Miami plays the winner of the SEC championship rematch.
Wow.
That's as far as I got.
Okay. Do you want
I
to go
couldn't,
further on the spot? You don't have to.
man, I don't know if a team can beat the same team three times in a row, man. I
I don't think
really
so.
don't know. I really don't know. And I hate how this broke down. Um, I
Oh,
would
trust me.
probably, I'd probably say Kirby probably finds a way finally to overcome the Bama curse, but I don't have any conviction about that pick, man. I have no conviction of that pick. And then ultimately, I'd still have Ohio State. I
Yeah.
would. I think the
So
way that
you
it breaks, I think that Ohio State beats either. So I think that Bama or Georgia beats Miami, and then I think that OSU wins.
wow.
That's how I have it breaking.
That's a great bracket. Okay. We have some significant similarities, but also a few ideological differences, I'll say, I guess,
Yeah.
as far as like from the onset, but I think we both see things long term
Any
the same way.
any big shockers or differences on my top 12 at the very least? Anything
Yeah,
stand out
so
for you? Let's hear it.
so here's where I differ from you. I have one ACC team, one Big 12 team, the rest, one G5 obviously, and then the rest independent Big 10 SEC. So I've
That's not
got,
that different because I only had the two ACC instead of the one. And then I had the one Big 12 team, one independent, one G5.
but I went heavy SEC here, which,
Yeah.
so Reagan, here's what I should do real quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you my preseason picks. All right.
Okay.
Because I put this out there on the pod earlier this year. So you started off with conference championships. So my preseason, and I'm going to have to eat a few of these because I got
Oh
Clemson
yeah.
and Penn State all over this.
I'll run
My
through I
preseason,
had eight after you do yours. I want to run through mine because I want to own up to my eight as well. So
Okay.
go ahead.
So my preseason ACC championship game was Clemson over Georgia Tech. My Big 12 was a rematch from last year, Arizona State over Iowa State, and it doesn't look good for either of those right now.
No.
Texas Tech was my number 3 there.
Hmm.
SEC, I had Texas over Georgia, Reagan. I don't even have Texas in this rendition of my bracket.
Laner.
Like,
Okay. I've been declared a arch hater by one of my best friends, and he's going to listen to this pod, so he knows who he is. Man, I was the Texas hater guy last year. I was not big on them in the long run last year, and I came in and I was the arch guy last year, and then I just sat there and questioned. Sark really knows what he's doing. Why did Arch not take that job when Ewers got hurt last year and never looked back? So I had Texas out this year. I was not big on Texas this year. Like, yeah. Well, so were you,
that's
you just bought you drank the Arch Kool-Aid?
uh I mean, I just was like, hey, I think Texas has been in the semifinals the last 2 years. I just felt
Yeah.
favorable
You thought
schedule
they'd
for
established
SEC
themselves?
standards. I
Yeah.
thought this is the year they take the jump. So part of that was Arch. Um, and part of me was thinking the same thing as you last year as far as Sark knows what he's doing, but why doesn't Arch have this job? Because Quinn didn't ever look right. Anyway, really good thoughts there, Reagan. Um, but the thing is, Texas is still in this, which is crazy. Because my other thing too, Reagan, and I didn't predict this, but I said Texas, Ohio State, they play week one. They're the number one team versus the number two team, or number one versus number three, whatever it is. And I said, there's a real shot that whoever loses this game doesn't make the playoff. Just because, based on precedent from we've only got 1 year of experience in the top 12, they look at the loss column more than they look at anything.
Yeah.
So all it takes is you lose that first game and then you lose two conference games and you're sitting at 9-3 and the committee goes, sorry. And I would have, if Texas goes 9-3, depending on how these last couple games shake out and you keep them out, it's a tough look in my opinion, right? Now, that's dependent upon the rest of the field
Yeah.
because I hate when you discourage teams from scheduling big time non-conference matchups. Sorry, I went on a whole rabbit hole there.
No, I totally agree, man.
But I
Um,
think it's sending the wrong message of, yeah, we're going to
okay.
count that Ohio State loss against you.
Yeah.
Anyway, Big 10, my preseason pick was Ohio State over Penn State. Big Ten, I basically just need to flip Indiana with Penn State, and then my predictions look really good because it's all Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so my preseason though, my 12 were Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Oregon, Alabama, Clemson, Arizona State, Ole Miss, LSU, and Boise.
I
And
don't
obviously,
really. Boise wasn't a bad pick for the G5. That Boise State USF game early on was really, really huge for that.
yeah.
Um, again, I had some of the same stinkers. So my eight, so I didn't do the whole 12 before the season. I kind of told my friends and some other folks, if the champion isn't one of these eight, I would be shocked.
Okay. Yeah.
So the eight that I have, and I'll start off with my stinkers and just own them. I had Clemson and I had
Yep.
Penn State, like everybody.
Same.
So then the others were Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Bama, LSU, Notre Dame. And the ninth team that I liked, I didn't put in was Miami. I
Wow.
didn't know what Beck's arm would be. After that injury, as soon as his arm was okay, there was an immediate like, but I didn't call it, so gonna own that. That was a miss. Should have went with the gut a little bit.
Okay, you're not gonna believe this. My nine, I had nine instead of eight. So I had Clemson and Penn State as well. I'll take those out. I had Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Georgia, Oregon, Alabama, and LSU. So that's my seven basically. And I didn't
Yeah.
include Miami either, just a distrust factor and too much
Yeah, so
unknown.
so
So we
really
were
the
pretty on par there.
the Texas thing was really the only difference.
Literally, that's it.
Yeah,
And I mean, now it's like, whew, there's a lot of teams out there. Okay, I've kept the people listening in too long. Here's
let's
my
hear it.
bracket. Number one seed, Ohio State. I think they go undefeated, win the Big Ten championship game over Indiana. They're going to square off against the winner of the eight seed, Ole Miss, and 9 seed Oklahoma. So I have an SEC matchup first round. Winner there would play Ohio State. Indiana, who lost the Big Ten championship, is the 5 seed, and they'll square off against USF first round. They'll win that one, and they will play Big 12 championship, Big 12 champ Texas Tech, who's the 4 seed. So that's the one half of my bracket. Ohio State, the 1 seed, playing winner of Ole Miss and Oklahoma, and then Texas Tech, the 4 seed, playing the winner of Indiana and USF. I have an Indiana Ohio State rematch in the semifinals there. And then on the other side, I've got Miami at the 2 seed and Georgia at the 3 seed. Miami being the only ACC team because I think Georgia Tech's going to lose this weekend. Spoiler alert. So I think that they'll play in the ACC championship, but that's their second loss, probably third loss actually, because I think they'll lose to Georgia. So I don't think Georgia Tech makes it, but I still have them going to the ACC championship. Georgia Alabama rematch, Reagan, for
Ooh.
the SEC championship, but I have Georgia winning this one at the 3 seed, playing the winner of 11 seed Texas A&M and 6 seed Alabama. So I have Bama beating A&M and then Bama beating Georgia in the third matchup of the year. So on the year, Bama goes 2-1 against Georgia, but Georgia gets the SEC championship.
Yep.
And then Miami has 7 seed Oregon and 10 seed Notre Dame waiting to play them. I have Notre Dame winning, beating Oregon, so Oregon gets knocked out in the first round again, and they miss out on the Big Ten championship. And then they upset Miami in their rematch, and they go to the semifinals. So my semifinals are Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Indiana. My preseason prediction was an Ohio State Alabama championship with the Buckeyes winning it, and I'm just going to stick with it because why not?
Why
Let
not?
me stick
Why
with it.
not? You know what's so funny is in both of our predictions, we have the 5 seed going on a long run again, like last year. And it really just talks to kind of how the playoff is not really well seeded right now, where that 5 seed has a real built-in advantage most years, where they're going to see that G5 team. They're going to get the lowest conference champion, Texas Tech,
Yep.
I think you had right in the four.
Yeah. Texas Tech at
Yeah.
number 4.
It's a real advantage. Last year was ASU waiting there in the 4 seed to get Texas after they beat up on Boise. I think, no, who was the 12 last year? It was Clemson.
Yes.
Clemson last year. And then, yeah, Boise was the 3 seed, I believe, last year.
Yeah, that was a wild year.
Yeah.
And the
So,
massive advantage of the 5 seed too is you get that home game. That's huge for your fan
oh, yeah.
base, for your revenue, for your recruiting,
Yeah.
and you're playing a very favorable matchup. So great call on that.
No, and I love that both of us are on the Bama Georgia rematch in the SEC championship. I think that's really funny. I think it's really funny that we both have our team losing the first in that SEC game, and then our
And then
team.
winning.
And again, I don't like having to make that pick because I've got freaking beaten bulldog syndrome, battered bulldog syndrome. But I
That's
think we're in for
so
a really,
funny.
really good end of the season, man.
But let's talk about this, Reagan. How hard is it to predict this playoff? Because I'm going to tell you, the hardest team for me to keep out of this was Nebraska. Because I'm looking at them and I'm going, man, they got a really favorable schedule. But I'm looking at a hinge game there. I'm banking on USC beating them
Hmm.
later this year, which was a home game for Nebraska. So I feel crazy keeping Nebraska out. The other team that you had in yours that I feel crazy keeping out is Tennessee. But I'm banking on Bama winning this weekend over Tennessee. And then, dude, that Tennessee Vandy rivalry game, that's a real game now, Reagan. And
Oh
there's a
yeah.
couple other ones on there.
So the reason, and I was looking at I was looking at schedules, just trying to, again, it's really hard trying to predict this many games left. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But and I have their schedule pulled up. So I'm assuming that they lose the Bama game too. I think it's a really good game. Again, take the over, but anything over a touchdown, I would take Tennessee to cover. It's a bad line, in my opinion. Not a bad line, but I would take the hook there for that
Yeah.
extra half point. They go to Kentucky, very manageable game. They get Oklahoma at home in Neyland. Big game. Then they get a little cupcake action, New Mexico State. Then they go to the swamp. Now I'm assuming at that point Billy's gone. I think
Yep.
However, Tennessee has not won in the swamp since we were children. I believe it was 2003,
It's a
2004,
tough
something like
spot,
that. I,
man.
I didn't write it down. I wish I had. They've not won there in over 20 years. And so I do think that they'll get that game. And then they have Vandy at home in Neyland.
Yeah.
So it's a very favorable schedule. And that's sort of why I kind of figured that they'd run the table after a good, hard fought Bama game. I feel like that's kind of the game for them where if they lose close, it's a little bit. I'm not a big moral victories guy, but when Vanderbilt stood on the field with Bama 2 weeks ago, and they really played really well. The score was so misleading. It was that late
Oh yeah, it was a
touchdown.
late Bama score that made it look
Yeah,
worse.
and so when a team gets on the field and they realize like, oh, we deserve to be here, especially when this was supposed to be a rebuilding year for Tennessee, I had them in. And I genuinely think I was looking at Virginia and I was looking at Georgia Tech. I think Tech beats Duke this weekend. I know we're on opposite ends of that this
Yeah,
weekend. But man, I was looking at Virginia. So let me read that for you. I've got their schedule pulled up as well.
please.
So listen to this. So they've got Wash U at home this weekend, Washington State. Then they go to North Carolina, train wreck. Then they go to Cal, train wreck again. Not train wreck, but it's Cal.
Hmm.
Then they get Wake Forest at home. They go to Duke. That's kind of the last circle point because then they get Virginia Tech, who's in total disarray right now, 2-5 right now in the year. They get Virginia Tech at home.
Wow.
So super manageable schedule for Virginia. And then Georgia Tech, again, very manageable schedule. Let me pull that up. I've got this pulled up as well. So this weekend they go to Duke. I think
Hmm.
they win. You think they lose. If they were to win, play the game in my head. If they were to win this game, then they get Syracuse at home. They go to NC State, to Boston College, two winnable games,
Yep.
and then they're home for Pitt. That's
Yeah.
the end of conference play for them. If
And Syracuse's quarterback is out for the year.
Yeah. And then they get Georgia at home. Ultimately, not a. It's relevant in the sense that if they were to win that game, I
Oh
believe that's
yeah.
the tiebreak for them. So they're
Yes.
in because they're undefeated. Virginia has the one out of conference loss. So that's the tiebreak. And that could be the difference between them playing Miami. And if they're in playing Miami with zero conference losses, I
Oh
think they're
yeah.
in, which is
Yep.
sort of what I had baked in.
Yeah, and that this is so fun, Reagan. I could do this all night with you. Thank you for breaking that down. And for a moment, let's zoom out. I could go three different directions here because I want to talk about Virginia Tech too and a crazy conspiracy I have. But for a moment, just think about the difference in those schedules. Like when we, both of us are fans of teams in the SEC, but when we talk about Tennessee having a favorable schedule, and on that schedule still, they have a road trip to the swamp. They have a home game versus a Vanderbilt that's legit. They got a road game at Bryant Denny against a rival. So they have two rivalry games left on their schedule still that aren't even their rivalry week at Florida, at Alabama. And we're saying it's a favorable schedule for them in regards to the rest of the SEC. Like, just for a moment, think about that. That's why when Reagan and I keep saying this year, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's so hard to predict. Who knows what's going to happen? Like, I didn't even mention they've got Oklahoma on there too, Reagan. And for
Yeah.
me, like, you're on the side of you're banking on Tennessee winning that one. I'm banking on Oklahoma winning that one. Who knows? Who knows who's going
Nah,
to be
yeah.
healthy then? Who knows what the storylines are going to be heading into that? Like, it's so hard to predict this year. And obviously, I think everybody knows that the SEC schedules are tougher than the Big 12 and the ACC, but where people will give you a hard time is the Big 10. And the Big 10 to me, okay, I whiffed on the Penn State and Indiana thing, but let's be honest, like Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, that's tier one, and the rest of the conference is just not on that level.
Then you've got a couple teams tier two, Michigan, Nebraska, USC, and
And
then
who's going to elevate, right?
am I missing somebody? Then that's okay. So you've got in the top tier, Indiana, Oregon,
Illinois,
OSU.
maybe. Sorry.
Yeah, Illinois maybe. They got boat raced though. So it's hard for me to take a team seriously when you get 70 dropped on you,
Right.
you know. But so you got three tier one teams. And again, Oregon, I would still put them up there, but at the least they're top of tier two. At the least.
Oh, yeah, they're tier one for me.
Yeah. And then
I
you've
mean,
got a
first
couple
year
of
in the
tier two
conference,
teams.
they go undefeated and win the
Yeah.
conference. Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, no, you're good. And I think last year, this year, different teams, different quarterback situation. So it's fluid. You know, I wouldn't give them the ultimate respect of an Alabama or a Georgia or an Ohio State quite yet.
Yeah,
They're
not
right
yet.
there where exactly where every year their floor really seems to be like top of tier two in the Big Ten. Um,
Absolutely.
but then you got a couple of teams, and then you got some just some dog water teams down there in the Big Ten where there's going to be a bunch of weeks where, oh, it's nice. I got Wisconsin this week. Okay,
Yep.
that's cool. Ohio State, you know, they're
Right.
going to Wisconsin while Bama gets Tennessee at home,
Right. Right.
you know. Um, so the top tier, the top talent, SEC, Big Ten, right there. You can even argue Big Ten, the top tier's ahead right now. I
Yeah.
mean, they've
And the
two
Big
in a row.
Ten's won the last 2 years, right?
Exactly. But the depth of the SEC, I'm not going to argue at all with the SEC teams you had in there. I didn't have Texas A&M in there. They play a
Yeah. Tell me
bloodbath of a
about that.
schedule, man. So I was going through, and man, their schedule is so brutal to end the year. Let me pull them up real quick. Where are
Reagan,
you, Texas A&M? Yeah,
I also think Texas A&M at the end of the year could be a
yeah,
playoff playing game.
it
I think
could.
they could both go into that game with 2 losses, and it's like winning you're in, which is wild, man. Wild.
So so listen to this. This is how Texas A&M schedule plays out. They go to Arkansas this week, in which their Arkansas's offense is legit enough to where it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how good you are. You're sleeping, they'll catch you.
I love Taylor
Um,
Green. Love him.
yeah, they go to LSU, to Missouri, then they get South Carolina and Samford at home, and then they go to Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
That was a bloodbath of a schedule where I figured they're going to lose a couple, maybe even a third. I heard you say that you think there's a shot Texas ends up having 2 losses getting to the end of the year.
I
They
do.
go
I
to
do.
Kentucky right now this week, very manageable game. To Mississippi State, who is no slouch this year. Not great, but not a slouch. Then they get Vanderbilt at home. Then they go visit the boys in Athens. And then they get Arkansas at home. And then they close up the year against Texas A&M.
Yeah.
I've not seen anything from this Texas team this year that indicates to me that they win more than 8 games.
hmm
I
I'm
haven't
not
seen it.
predicting it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's in the realm of possibility. I kept
Oh,
them
for
out
sure.
because I don't think that they do it, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, man. And to me, the big one on there, I mean, Vanderbilt actually played them tight last year. A lot of people don't remember. That was back to back weeks where Vanderbilt beat Alabama, and then the next week they played Texas at home. And it was actually a sleepy game in the sense of a very low scoring, close game. But Texas snuck out of there. Yeah, I mean, Mississippi State's not easy. That's going to be
No.
tough. But I don't know, man. I saw something. They won the Red River shootout, and Arch just looked lighter after. That's just a total gut thing. Practically, it doesn't make sense. I don't think that they do
Yeah.
it, especially not on the road at Georgia. Sark
Look, I mean,
versus Kirby.
their defense is good enough to where they will be in
Yeah,
every game. They will. Again, go back to the Ohio State game, 14-7. They were in
yeah,
that game until the end. I know they were down 14-0 most of that game before they kind of made it close late, but that defense is real. And then even the Florida game, 21-29, Florida was in command most of that game. However, their defense is legit. I just, man, I've just not seen anything out of the offense this year. Again, they beat Oklahoma when Mateer was really shouldn't have been playing in all likelihood.
yeah.
You know,
And I
ironically, I think
see
Oklahoma might have helped give Texas a little bit of momentum where they beat them with Mateer on the field, and that gives them a little bit of bravado. Whereas
bingo.
if they beat them regardless without Mateer, Oklahoma can say, "Guys, look, you beat us without our guy. What's
Yes,
that win really
exactly.
do?" So,
Exactly. I honestly see Texas and Oklahoma as very similar teams, but the reason I have Oklahoma in my playoff and trusting them is because I do trust Mateer and
yeah,
Arbuckle in that offense. And I
yeah.
know that the run game has been atrocious. So I'm just like holding out hope that at somehow magically halfway through the season, Jaden Ott will turn it on or that run game will happen. But I both defenses are elite. I just trust Mateer over Arch.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Again, me not having Oklahoma in was not a slight to them in the slightest.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that so the committee tries to my read on them is they try and be as unbiased as possible, and they will try and equal out the playing field a little bit between the Big Ten and the SEC.
Yep.
Um, I think that the SEC might get one more team than the Big Ten, because the Big 12 is going to get one. The ACC is going to get one.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame gets one, and I
Yeah.
think then you have the G5 team. So that leaves 8 spots left. So I think at the most you'd be talking about a 5-3 slant for the SEC at
And that's what I
most.
have. I have
And
5-3. And
yeah,
my
and that's
theory,
fair.
the reason I'm banking on that, Reagan, is I'm just banking on a lot of 10-2. A lot of
Yeah,
10-2.
I
Like
think you're
I'm
right.
thinking Ole Miss, Oklahoma, even potentially Alabama, like and some
I
teams that
don't
I
think
don't have in there, like a Tennessee or an LSU, that we could have 6 10-2 teams.
I don't think there'll be an 11-win team in the SEC. I don't
Wow.
at all. I absolutely think Alabama loses one. I absolutely think Georgia will lose one. I absolutely think Ole Miss will lose a couple. Texas A&M will
Wow.
lose a couple. I think we're heading for a real bloodbath. Now, here's a scenario I want to kick at you and see what you
Yeah.
thought. What happens if Miami loses their conference championship? What happens if a Texas
Oh,
Tech loses their championship? That's a real chaos. If one of those
real
or if
possibilities too.
both, look, it's Miami. They lose
Yeah.
big games. Like,
I, I think the Big 12 is more of a possibility, but yeah, dude, it's a real possibility. And then someone's gonna be on the outside looking in again.
yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah.
Um,
And you
there's
know
gonna be a
who
lot of
is?
conversations.
You know who the SEC should be big fans of is Miami and Texas Tech.
Yeah, you're right.
Because that's who's going to get left out as an SEC team, a 10-2 SEC team.
Yeah.
Because
And
unless Oregon slips up, or if Indiana slips up, or Ohio State slips up before those conference championships, it would really have to be Oregon really catch that second loss.
totally
Because if Indiana loses one, I don't see either Indiana or Ohio State losing more than one before the conference championship, and they're not
right,
going to keep the loser of that game out. It would really
right.
have to be Oregon catching a second loss.
Oh, a few more weeks into this, Reagan, and we're gonna start to see some of these chaos scenarios develop. One of
Yep.
them is going to be Notre Dame and Texas A&M, potentially. If
Yeah.
if A&M finds a way to, you know,
Say they're both 10
go
and 2.
somewhat unscathed. If they're 10-2, but what if they're not? I think if they're 10-2, they're in. You have two losses
They
in
have
the
to.
SEC and you beat Notre Dame. But what if they go 9-3 and they beat Notre Dame? And then you're like, "Oh man, you're
Who'd
looking
they
at this
lose
list of
to?
quality wins and you're like, Notre Dame's got USC on there."
You
And
know
like,
what's
can they say Arkansas? Like,
you
it's
know
going to
what's
be awkward.
so you know what's so annoying about the playoff committee and everything is that they've trained us to talk about losses where the first thing out of my mouth while I was so rudely interrupting you was was well, who'd they lose to? Whereas who could you go point at Notre Dame beating? Is it USC and a lot of Navy and a lot of Stanford versus Texas A&M? If they've got Notre Dame. They got them. I understand it was by an extra point, but special
Yeah,
teams matters.
totally.
So the SEC should be big Miami fans, big Texas Tech fans,
That's a
and
great point, Reagan.
hope there's a lot of 10-2 that can kind of slip through at the end.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, I know we've been going long, but who cares? We're already in it. If you're good,
Yeah.
Reagan, I want to
Oh,
throw
I'm good.
two wild scenarios your way. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to start with the ACC, then we're going to come back to the SEC. Okay, ACC, Virginia Tech. All right. Is that an attractive job? We asked this about UCLA. Is that an attractive job anymore?
I think it can be. I think it can be. I think it's kind of pitiful how the state of Virginia, how they've been so bad for the last decade in Virginia Tech's case, in the last forever in the Cavaliers case. Um, I think that the SEC is something that they're very interested in those Virginia properties. Like they're very interested in the North
100%.
Carolina properties. Um, it definitely can be because if Virginia Tech were to find its way into the SEC, which is not unreasonable at all in my mind, it's a very attractive job all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But
And regardless of whether that happens, and that's a great insight. And one, I hate the expansion. I already think we're too far gone. I
it's
hate it.
inevitable. Exactly.
Yeah,
It's inevitable. It's
I hate
inevitable. They're
it.
just going
I'm
to
an
keep gobbling up.
anti-expansionist. Rip the
Yeah.
pack. I love the pack. I wish
Hey,
we could
it's
go
still there.
backwards,
It's
but we
just the
just
pack
can't.
two.
You're
It's still there. The
right.
pack two.
You're right.
One more
But
year and it'll be back.
Yeah, you're right. Next year it is back.
We need some midnight football that isn't just Hawaii.
Pack after dark, baby.
Hey,
Okay. We What if South Carolina this year just falls apart? You catch where I'm going with this?
yeah,
Last year was their
little
year.
family reunion.
I think yeah, family reunion. But I
Yeah,
think last year was South Carolina's best shot. I'm just gonna be honest. There there's tiers in the SEC. They could do it, but like this was supposed to be the year that you make the jump, and I already think like their year's kind of over. And family reunion. Do we get Beamer Part 2 in Virginia Tech?
that'd be fun. That'd be fun. That would bring real vigor back to that fan base real quick. I want Virginia Tech. So I grew up, for the listeners, I grew up a Miami Hurricanes fan. And you know who on that schedule put the fear of God in me? Virginia Tech.
The Hokies,
They
baby.
always were so good in the 2000s, man. They
Enter
were so
Sandman.
good. Enter Sandman. It's unreal. Um, they're good fans. They deserve better than what they've got over the last 10 years. I'll say
Oh
that.
yeah. I've said a few times on this podcast, love it or hate it, when some of the traditional college football powers are really good, it's really good for the sport. If that
Oh
one
yeah.
could get it right, that would be phenomenal for the sport.
Oh yeah. No, I totally agree.
Okay,
So
so
what's your so is your conspiracy that you think that there might be a little Beamer reunion? Because you were mentioning conspiracy earlier.
my conspiracy is Brian Kelly's going to get fired at the end of this season. Neither of us had LSU in the playoff. He's already been
That's
there for a long tenure. They fired Eddie O 2 years after they won a national championship.
with the best team
LSU
I've ever seen.
LSU looks bad, Reagan. Like
Yeah.
if they can't get stuff figured out, like, and I could be way off, man. Nuss could go off. The defense is really good. Blake Baker's a stud at DC. That's a guy that maybe he wants a head coaching job out there. He might have an opportunity. But LSU, I think what happens is they lose to Vandy this weekend. And and if they do, man, it's gonna be bad. They got A&M after that, road game at Bama, at Bryant Denny. And then late in the year, they finished with Oklahoma.
Man.
I mean, I don't know, dude. My conspiracy right now is Brian Kelly is
So
gone.
so you know what I think plays into the Brian Kelly potentially getting fired thing? They're looking at Brian Kelly's ex and they're seeing how much better. I'm saying this as not a Notre Dame fan or an LSU fan, how much better Notre Dame got once he was gone.
Yeah, no
Man.
doubt.
And so the company that I work for, we do a lot of business in Louisiana. So I'm in Louisiana a good bit. I talk to a lot. I'm a college football junkie. I talk to
Oh yeah,
people. And I can talk LSU. I can talk Iowa. Whatever, man. I'll tell you, the LSU fans are getting very worn down by him. They are. This was the year they circled. They were willing to kind of wait it out, and they are still not over. I'll tell you, no, LSU fans are still not over the fact that they wasted Jaden Daniels' Heisman game.
yeah,
They're
and I
still
don't
not over
blame him.
that. No.
That's a little bit of the USC and the Miami experience too. You have that taste in your mouth. Hey man, we let a Heisman guy go with this awful defense. It's insane how much that's happened the last few years, Reagan.
Yeah, Cristobal was able to pivot very well so far. So far.
That defense is legit, man. What a
Oh,
pickup.
it's yeah,
That Minnesota DC, my gosh. Yeah, so
yeah,
LSU, I don't know, man. I could be way off on that because relatively speaking, if they win this Vandy game, it sets them up a lot better. Their only loss is the Ole Miss loss, right? But they only beat South Carolina by 10 at home. They only scored 20. The defense is so
yeah,
good. They held Lenore
yeah,
Sellers to 10, but I'm just not seeing it. And the way A&M has played this year, I give their offense the edge over LSU, which sounds insane to say.
yeah.
But I mean, whew,
You know what's crazy to think is that in a cycle that might include the Florida job and the Penn State job, that neither of those would be the best job available. If LSU becomes available, LSU's the better job.
you're right. You're right. That's wild
So
stuff, man. I could
that
be
that
way off on that, but
I don't
those
think you're
LSU
way
fans,
off.
I went down there last spring, earlier this year. Johnny was playing against them in a
Hmm.
weekend series for baseball. They went on to win the national championship, obviously. You're not kidding about those fans. There's an expectation there, kind of like Arkansas. LSU is an everything school, kind of like Arkansas. They're good at
Hmm.
everything, and if you're not winning, you're gone. You don't get much of a window. So if Brian Kelly can't figure it out, I think if they don't make the playoff this year, he's gone. He's gone because he doesn't handle himself well either. He's
No,
not good at the podium. He's a
he does himself
complainer.
no favors. No
Exactly.
favors. He got rid of all the Louisiana folks in that program. Like, man, that's so. This could be another Penn State situation where a team built for a year and then clearly that they're not, it wasn't their year. And then the wheels just come off the wagon. I could see
Yeah.
that happening. I mean, again, they've been scraping by. They've kind of been scraping, clawing by. Man, if they lose to Vanderbilt, though, it doesn't matter that Vanderbilt's the favorite. Doesn't matter that Vanderbilt's legit. LSU fans are going to look, you just lost to Vanderbilt. It's kind of where Bama fans were last year, ironically.
Right.
Bama
Right.
fans are like, you lost to who?
Yeah.
To who? I saw a meme a couple of weeks ago when y'all beat us, and it was the Simpsons meme where the guy walks in and then walks right back out, and it's Kalen DeBoer saving his job every year by beating Georgia. Oh man, it was a great
That's
meme,
so
man.
funny.
Great
Oh,
meme.
that's good
But
stuff.
man, that would be wild.
That would be insane, man. This was a crazy podcast, Reagan. Do we have
Yeah.
anything else to share? Because
We got a crazy weekend of football in front of us, man.
yeah.
That's all I got to say. We've got so many loaded matchups. Our entire rankings could be thrown out. Notre Dame loses. We both lost a playoff team right
Yes.
there. Georgia loses. They're on the outside looking in the rest of the year. They basically got to run the table. If Tennessee beats Bama
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and Georgia, so if Tennessee were to win and Georgia were to win, all of a sudden Tennessee has a real shot at playing in Atlanta.
Yes.
Real
100%.
shot. So and um, and then all of a sudden they're sitting there saying, "Man, we're a missed field goal away from a potential Heisman season."
Yeah. Yeah. You're not kidding.
So,
We didn't even talk about
man,
Vanderbilt either. So there's a lot out there, man. It's going to be a great weekend of football. I'm excited for it. It's
me too.
really good stuff, man. The slates are so good too. Like the night window is nuts. And it's so full. Georgia and Ole Miss are playing at 3:30, which is crazy.
Yeah, I hope everyone has two TVs because there's a couple of
Yes. Yes.
stacked 7:30 games, a couple of great 3:30 games. You know, I've got the man cave ready. I've got the four TVs on the wall. Going to have a game on each of them.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's going to be a great weekend of college football. Man, as always, we didn't give him the intro, so we'll give him the outro. Duck Buck right here. I got the hat and the shirt today. So,
Looking clean, man.
little Duck Buck love. Little pocket tee. Your hat's en route, Reagan. It'll be there any day now. Next week on the pod, you'll get to show it off. But we
Awesome.
we really appreciate Duck Buck, man. They're
No.
powering the show all year. Duckbuckco.com, code LCFP for 15% off. We really appreciate those guys.
Hey, I'm a hat guy. I love the logos. It was hard for me to just select one, man. So go fill up the cart, get a couple.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Hey, and enjoy week 8 of college football. Reagan, thanks for jumping on the pod. This is Laner signing off.